a real story. I mean, on this island, you don't have any cars. Everybody walks, takes horse-drawn buggies or fat tire bicycles in the whole island. So everything is just like way back in the turn of the century. I mean, turn of the second to the last century, the 1900s. Fascinating, and it's where the whole story takes place. And this guy, modern day guy, falls in love with a photograph of a woman who lived in 1910, a young, beautiful girl, very famous actress actually back then. And he just is so obsessed he has to go back in time to find her.
Oh, that's
and
so sweet.
He does. It's just a fascinating story. Yeah. So I was lucky
to see that one.
Well, I was lucky.
So your book is like that. Yeah.
My book is very similar to that, and I'll tell you why. Because I was lucky enough to be an extra all summer long in that film on Mackinac Island, because my younger brother, you're younger than I was the costumer for the film. Universal Pictures was doing the film. We were both in L.A. trying to be famous like everybody else, and I was a tour guide at the time at Universal Studios, slugging it out like everybody else. And I get a phone call from my brother in this little dinky place in Michigan saying, "Hey, what are you doing this summer? You want to come out and be an extra in this movie?" Because there's only a few people on this island. They don't have enough people to hang out for the summer to be extras in the film. So I ended up doing that. So anyway, I wrote a story about going back to the Somewhere in Time reunion that they have every summer on Mackinac Island, by the way, commemorating the movie, meeting some of my old friends that we were extras together in, and then there's a love story from there, and time travel again back to the 1900s through kind of a interesting group of events to get back there. But it's just a magical place if you ever get a chance to go to Mackinac Island. There's the beautiful Grand Hotel, the largest wooden structure hotel in the world, and it's just gorgeous. That's where the whole thing takes place.
Oh, sounds so fascinating. My goodness. I've got to see this movie and read your book. What's the name of your book going to be, or is it? Or do you have a title yet?
Thank you for asking. It's very simple. It's the book is called Somewhere in Time, a midlife memoir.
Nice.
And so I just kind of named it very similar to the film, but a little bit extra. Of course, Richard Matheson is the famous author that wrote that film and that book initially. It was originally called Bedtime Return, and Richard Matheson was one of the real famous Twilight Zone writers back in the old days in the 60s,
Really?
There was a whole cadre of amazing writers, for those basically television plays is what they were, those old Twilight Zone episodes. Many of them took place in a one-room set, they're hardly, it's almost like they're doing it on a stage, but they're doing it in a television format. And, of course, they only had about a half an hour to do those episodes, and the writing was just astonishing. Of course, many science fiction writers came out of that era as well.
Fascinating. Wow.
Yeah,
I love the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite shows, yes. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, wasn't there some real awesome stories about the idea that, I remember this one where this young girl was born kind of deformed, and she actually even looked like she had a pig nose.
Yeah.
But he was sorry for her their whole lifetime, remember? And then she had this opportunity to go to another planet, I believe it was. And she was hemming and hawing whether she should do this or not do this. Her family, was all up in the air, and she decided to go. And she gets off the rocket or wherever it was to get her to this other planet. All the people of that world looked just like her, and they thought she was the most beautiful thing in the world. I just thought that was a wonderful screenplay.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah,
so many different stories on the Twilight Zone. I loved every one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find those on the internet, like just like because they're still black and white, those kinds of things. But those are fascinating to watch about what they can do with 30 minutes of time and take you to another place.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Just 30 minutes. Yeah.
And by the way, then, how long do you suppose it would take someone to read your 140, 150-page book? As far as you're concerned, do you think they could do this in one sitting, or does it take a weekend to do, or what do you think?
Well, it takes 2 hours, and most people say that, but most people have told me that once they start to read the book, they can't put it down, that they'll read it all the way through.
Oh, wonderful. Don't you love that?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm happy, I'm happy they're happy. That's what makes me happy, and that I'm getting the point across, and they like the story a lot. So that's all good. Yeah, I'm very happy about that.
Well, is it the type of book that when they do get to the end of the book, do they wish it didn't end at that point? Have they told you?
I've heard that too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh. And is a sequel coming out? And
right.
I tell people, you don't want the sequel. So I'm off to another matter altogether if I'm going to write a book. Yeah. You don't want the sequel. Oh my goodness. No.
Well, the sequel might take a whole lot out of you to do that again. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. No, the sequel part I don't want to relive again at all. This was a hard book to write because of all the emotions I've had invested in it while living it. So then to relive that was very difficult to write it out again. To relive it that way, but no, that's it. That's the one and only Guiding Kathy, a True Story, version 1, period.
Yeah, 1.0.
1.0.
By the way, here's an interesting thing I always like to ask every once in a while to an author, is that have any of your family members read the book, your parents potentially, or your siblings or whatever, and what was their opinion of reading your story?
Well, my parents have passed, and my father didn't have the chance. My mother went, and then my father passed, and they didn't have the chance to read the book because I just published it a couple of years ago, and my dad passed in 2012, and my sister really doesn't care to discuss the paranormal, and I'd rather not go any further than that with her. Talking about that. Yeah. Yeah,
I know how you feel. I mean, it's very difficult to talk with sometimes family members or relatives about things like this that are close to your heart and important to you when they don't have any frame of reference, where you're coming from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this idea of you writing another book, and you're giving us a hint that it might be totally different than what you've written.
It will be totally different. Oh, yeah.
Do you have an idea what it would be?
Yes, I do. Which I don't think it's a good idea to discuss it yet, being that it's not out there.
It's still forming in your mind, in other words, it sounds like.
Well, it is, and I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to hang on to it before I make it more public, even to discuss it yet at this stage. Yeah.
Well, is it something that you think you have already written some kind of notes on or an outline to, or are you just going to start from scratch when you finally do it?
No, it's something I also experienced. It's another aspect of my life, but more fictionalized. Yeah,
sure.
I'm going to elaborate on it in a fictional sense. Yeah. But
Well,
the basis is it has a realistic reality basis to it, though. For me, but you won't know.
got it.
Yeah.
Well,
But the reader won't know.
That's what I did with my time travel love story as well. There's many, many parts in there that are accurate and historical and things that I did. I was an extra in the film and all that stuff. All that story's there, but you kind of embellish and add to it a little bit, and it makes the story very interesting that way.
Yeah, fiction, you can do that. I kept very true throughout my story. I wanted it all 100% true. So there I couldn't embellish. But fiction, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. But I'll bet it was difficult to get those feelings out, trying to stay true to form and the historical facts, but still having to try to explain your feelings as well in that first book.
Well, I put it out the way I was feeling at the time that I recalled feeling. So
yeah,
for that sense, no, it was easy. I mean, I remember it was too fresh in my mind. I mean, I was in deep mourning for over 10 years. So it was so fresh in my mind that I knew what to write, how to write it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, do you think there was a positive therapeutic benefit for you actually going through that 10-year process of grieving and writing the book? I would imagine that would be quite useful to you for your future life and relationships.
Well, it's difficult. Every relationship is so unique. So I really, this one was very special. The most special I believe I could ever have with another man.
Yeah.
So to put it, was it therapeutic? I couldn't relate to, I wouldn't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
It's, I wouldn't know how to respond to that.
Well, that's all right. I always like asked questions, and you don't have to answer them all. So, but gosh, this has been a fascinating time with you tonight, Kathleen.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you.
I don't know.
And you're a great interviewer, and I appreciate all the wonderful questions you've been asking me. It's really awesome. So I greatly appreciate you and your questions.
Well, thank you.
And for having me on the show, too. Yes.
Yeah, and I told you we were going to have a good time tonight, and we were going to have plenty of things to talk about. I swear we could probably go on another hour if we wanted to, just to get down to some of the details. But we don't want to spoil this wonderful book for the listeners out there. And what is the best way, do you think, to tell people to pick this book up? Would it be on Amazon.com or what?
Yes. I'm running a special right now on both versions of my book. For the hard copy book, it's only $9.99 on Amazon.com.
Wow.
And for the ebook version, it's 99 cents. It's not going to break your bank, just 99 cents. But again, it's for a very limited time only. And the best way you can do that is you can Google or whatever engines search my name, Kathleen, Kathleen, Werstien, Werstein, and you can find my book that way. And also by the title, Guiding Kathy, A True Story. I do want to caution you, though. You may pull up some other sites, like on eBay, some offbeat kind of sites. Avoid them. I'm going to have to deal with them personally because I think they are not legit. They are something I did not sign up with. So please avoid them. And not only that, but they are going to charge you more than I'm charging you. So, and
right.
This special, I'm hardly seeing anything. What I would appreciate is our reviews.